Hey guys, we are back finally. Jake is back from Alberta and Australia. I've been sitting here doing all the office work while he was off adventuring. We are Outdoor Cameraman Experience. I am Jess DeLorenzo, and we have Jake Latendresse here, and we are Latendresse Media Collective. We have episode 4 for you guys today. It's going to be a freaking awesome show. We have Lee Kjos on. If you are not familiar with him, you will shortly get very familiar with him. He's an outstanding professional photographer in the outdoors. He has a background and a history and experience that blows all of us out of the water. So typically we kind of go over some cool camera stuff today. We're going to get right into it with Lee. But first, Jake, how was your trip? Trips.
Oh man, yeah, trips. Oh, they were stacked on top of each other. I'm tired. I've caught up on my sleep and catching up with my family now. I was in Australia first, and then literally hit the ground, hit and run from Colorado up to Alberta, and filmed a bear hunt for Sierra Langbill. And yeah, I'll be home. Glad to be back on the show. I've been anxious for this one for a while.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one.
Warning to everyone out there. This is going to be an explicit, raw, unfiltered show. Lee Kjos is very real, very organic, very raw. So, parental discretion is advised, but I would highly advise everyone to tune in and listen to this because it's going to be a very interesting philosophical show.
Awesome. So, without further ado, let's introduce Lee Kjos to the show. Hey, Lee.
Howdy. Lee, what's up, dude?
About time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. This is going to be awesome.
Anytime.
Yeah.
So I just heard you. I wasn't on, but I could hear you, and you said this is going to be philosophical.
I hope so. For anyone listening.
Oh, I don't know about philosophy, but we'll talk about the outdoors.
Yeah, Jake always, not that we shouldn't, but Jake always takes it to like this next level of creativity and emotions, and it's nice to hear that coming from a guy sometimes.
Okay.
Well, everything, all your copy and all the things that you say, your interviews that we've read and all those things, whether you like it or not, the things that you say are very, they resonate with a lot of people. So it turns into a philosophy for a lot of us. So you are philosophical, whether you like it or not.
Cool.
So, Lee, why don't you give us just like a really quick synopsis of where you came from and how you got to where you are today?
Boy, that's I suppose it started with my parents, my mom and dad. My dad was he was like a major sportsman, a traveling sportsman before it was cool, or before people were really doing that. He followed guys like the famous rifle hunter Jack O'Connor and Kurt Gowdy fly fishing, and just like back when there wasn't many people doing it. And my dad took me everywhere. Probably by the time I was like 13 years old, I'd hunted.
You had traveled the country, right?
Oh yeah, I'd hunted and fished in like maybe 13 different states and 4 different provinces in Canada by the time I was 13. And he took me to the best. I saw the best of the best when I was a kid. And well, like we were talking about earlier, like in your teenage years, like I think that's like the most informative years for a kid, right? That's when you start learning about culture and the arts and who you are, your own sexuality. There's all kinds of shit that music, everything I think is like those years. Well, he had me everywhere. My dad did then. And what he showed me as a youth, it blew my mind, right? It literally made me who I am. And even when I worked in corporate America, I was still that little kid, back there. So hunted ducks everywhere, ducks, geese, mainly bird hunting guys. But I hunted some big game when I was young, and fished and fly fished. And so
awesome.
That's, I don't know, I guess that's where my start was, when I was young. So.
What prompted you to pick up a camera the first time, and when was that?
My dad. He had a camera with always when we were hunting and fishing. But I guess probably the unique thing was, like, I documented the trips even when I was little. That was like my bag. I loved the process, the story. You know, like I showed you a little bit earlier, those portfolio books that I make out of my work from that year.
Can you show us those while you're talking about it?
I'll grab one here. So,
was your dad? Did he have the same sort of creative style as you? Was there no? You just picked it up on your own. It was just you were just born to do that.
Yeah, born to it, I guess, is a good. Yeah, I like that. Well, I was born to it. We'll get into that a little bit later. But here's I make a book.
These are awesome.
Yeah, I make one a year from that year's work. So you can see there, can you see that?
Yes, we can
That's
see it.
insane.
This is what I bring to. This is what I'd bring to SHOT Show, and I'd make one a year, right? So that started when I was, I don't know, 8, 9, 10. I'd make these books and take, even if it was a Polaroid, you remember those little glue corners you'd put?
Mm-hmm. Oh, hold on.
Oh, we're losing you. Uh-oh. You may have to click off and click back on, Lee. We're having some technical difficulties.
Oh man, that's what happens when you're in Minnesota.
Yeah, while he's coming back on, one of the interesting things about those books and talking about his childhood is the fact that he took something that he was doing when he was 8 years old, and he's really developed it into a.
I'm back?
You're back.
Yep, you're back.
What happened?
I think we're losing you a little bit out there.
Yeah. How's your signal?
Good.
Good. We were just talking about.
Phone call came in.
Did you get a phone call?
Would that do it?
Yeah,
that
do it.
That would do it. Yeah.
Hopefully we don't get any more.
Anybody who knows Lee, do not call him for the next hour.
Don't call
at all, or hour and a half. We may be here for a while. One of the interesting things that you're talking about, Lee, is something I think we should. It's worth mentioning is that when you were 8 years old, you were building stories and you were putting together little books and portfolios, and all you've really done. And one of my mentors has always talked about how simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And so you take what you were doing then, and you take what you've done now, and all you've done is evolved your work into much higher level. But it's really the same thing you were doing when you were 8 years old, and that's the simplicity and the sophistication behind really your success. Mm-hmm. Is that not true?
Oh, that's absolutely true. All I ever wanted to do was make art. That's it. That's all I've ever wanted to do. So and I think, even though you may have influences in life, but my influences could be, well, we talked about it earlier, Leonard Skinner and Greg Allman, and it didn't necessarily wasn't photography. It could have been a painter. It could have been a songwriter, but
it's all art.
Yeah, it's all art, right?
It's all art, yeah.
Art's original, and I've always tried to be original. I mean, always. That's important to me. But yeah, for sure. When I was a kid, I mean, I'm really no different than I am right now. I mean,
we should talk about
that's being authentic, being able to evolve. I mean, you've taken your profession to the top level, but you're still being able to see yourself through your entire scope of work. So without changing who you are and what you believe in as far as creating art, but being able to bring it to a new level as things change and technology progresses and things like that. That's important. That's being authentic, and that's hard to do. I mean, even from year to year, as technology changes and things like that, to keep your core, your center, that's pretty awesome.
I have an opinion on where that comes from.
Let's hear it.
You're asking about original works, right? And where do they come from? How do you come up with the ideas, right? How does that keep? Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, back up. You said that a little while ago. You said that I'm at the top of my profession, right? I've never looked at me like that ever. I don't think that, right? I'm always,
because you always see room for improvement. So
oh,
you never improvement or change, or looking for new ways to do things. So you never look at yourself. There's never the top of the mountain. If you're successful, you're always climbing, right?
yeah, I never look at it like that. Holy, I mean, I've made it, or I'm here.
Right.
No,
Right.
I don't know.
That's part of longevity too. That's the longevity of your career. If you've arrived at that place mentally in your own head, then what's the point of progressing? But being humble in yourself and understanding that there's a place for room for improvement, that's keeping you there. And we're all our own worst critic. So we're looking at you like, wow, this guy, he's a great photographer, but you're still like, hey, I got room to grow. I got things to do. I've got goals to make. So
yeah, lots to prove, right?
What do you think about, in social media today, one of the things, let's talk about authenticity and originality, okay, and art and creative design. You see a lot of people copying other people's work and there's a lot of, there's a difference between inspiration and plagiarism.
Oh,
and everyone wants to be you, man. So, I'm sure you see that a lot. Can you elaborate or do you have an opinion about that?
well, they
Without
don't want
getting ourselves in trouble here.
No, they don't want to be me. For sure not. No, they don't.
I don't know. I can't rock a headband that nice.
Yeah, I'll never.
I do think if I stop, like maybe when I get a little older and I look back, I mean, I do think maybe I had an influence on work in the outdoor space. I mean, how people approach it and the level of work, the quality of work is like incredibly good now compared to where it was when I started in the outdoor space. I mean, it's a lot of talented people out there, right? And if they would really stick to like being original and doing their own thing, it'll blow other markets away. I mean, it will.
No, it's endless. It's universal. I mean, it's like talking about space. It's so big and vast. There's no end to it.
Right. And the people are so passionate, right? Like I am about the space, and I'm sure you guys are. And when you have that, and then you have your own thing, like your originality, where you take things, the way you see things, which is that's what I think makes us different than the shooters, whether it's cinema or stills, but that's what makes us different, how we see things, right?
That's right.
So back to what you asked, like why I think it just keeps going and evolving and getting better and better, and my work's getting better. I love it. I'm still getting better, but it's because the ideas they're not mine, right? And I know that might sound weird. No, he's out there on the God Squad or something, or well, not quite, but spiritual for sure. When I'm out in the field and I'm driving around or something, and I see something that's incredibly beautiful, right? And you have to stop, or you got to photograph it. You got to look at it. You got to get it into your head, or even when I'm on location and something happens, the light or the grass or whatever it is, right? Bottom line is I didn't make it. I didn't create it. I just happened to be fortunate enough to, here's another tricky thing. I'm calm when I'm photographing. I'm never calm any other time. Never. Never. Nice. But when I'm behind the glass, it's like everything in my life, home, everything, it's gone. I don't think about my wife, my kids. I don't think about shit other than what I'm doing. And it's like super calm. And then I see this stuff, right? So what do I really have to do with that other than fortunate enough to see things that way. So that's why the work keeps going up, because it ain't me.
I read a quote one time about photography and cinematography that said, let me get this right, that the better you get at it, the harder it becomes, because you're always searching for something better. And as you get better, those intricacies that and details that make you better are harder to find, because you've done all these basic fundamental things and you're constantly looking for something new, and it's really hard to find. And you're like Jess said, you're your own worst critic. So do you feel the same way? Like the this gets harder because do you overthink things? You try to keep things simple, or what do you think about that?
No, well, no, not that for me so much. I don't search. It just comes. I don't search for anything, right?
You just see it and blast it.
I just go. And wherever it leads you, whatever it is, I don't know, it's different for different folks, but all I know is it ain't me. So as long as I'm quiet, you can stay quiet in your head, it'll happen.
I agree. People ask all the time, like, especially in my other half of this, I'm a wedding photographer and then outdoor photographer. People ask a lot, like, how do you shoot? How do you come up with what angles you're going to take? And I'm like, and they ask me like what kind of settings I'm using constantly. It's like, I don't have a set standard of what I'm going to do when. It just kind of, it's like you said, how you see things. Just if I see something, I'm going to shoot it that way, whether it's wide open or slow shutter speed. Like how I'm seeing it is how I'm going to adjust on the fly. And I think you probably do a lot of that in your work too. It's very, very artistic. Like you said, it doesn't seem like you have a set standard of settings that you're following at any particular time. You're on the fly, you're in the moment. And I think that that's where the best images come from, when you're in the moment and you're letting yourself be inspired by whatever higher power is placing these moments in front of you. So that's awesome.
Right. And the way I'd shoot something now is probably not the way I would have shot it 10 years ago or 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you mean?
You see things differently. Your experiences have changed probably the way that you see things every day. So,
well, technology has a play in that.
Yeah.
I shoot a lot because I'm going to retouch it, right? So I shoot things differently, knowing how I'm going to retouch it. Or your skill level with the camera on location when things are moving, your skill level gets better. So usually the harder the shot, the better the shot is. The harder it is to accomplish, it's usually better, right?
Greg.
What's that?
Greg Child, a friend of mine from years ago from Australia, he was a shooter for Nat Geo Adventure, and he told me one time, he said, Jake, the difference between a good photographer and a great photographer is the situation you put yourself in. I mean, two guys can stand there with essentially the same cameras and take the same shot. But then if you go out of your way to put yourself in position to get that amazing shot, that amazing angle, that's what separates the men from the boys, if you will.
Well,
or the ladies.
Or the ladies. That's what I meant.
There's probably a lot. I would agree with that. There'd be a lot of truth in that. If there's anybody out there watching right now that's ever seen me work on location, I mean, I'm a mess at the end of the day. My body hurts, my knees hurt, my shoulders hurt, right? I'm always on the ground. I'm up and down a few hundred times a day. You feel like a car. You feel like you're in a car wreck the next morning, But
yes, very physical.
I think you got to get dirty to be good at it. I think you got to be dirty to be good at anything.
100%, 100%. What was your first published photo?
I think I had the first one that I remember would be a Ducks Unlimited cover in June of 2000. So 18 years ago. But there were other ones published before that Let me think. Oh, it was a wild ride. If I told you that, like, how it started, you wouldn't even. It's crazy. You couldn't. If I would have went to a bank and said, "Hey, I need money because I'm going to start this deal up here, right? I'm going to quit my job I was an illustrator, a medical illustrator, a designer in corporate America for many years, and I quit my job, sold my house, bought a farm, told my wife I'm going to go be a photographer. I'm going to do this, right? There wasn't anybody really, not much. There was a few really good shooters out there. I think what I did with the camera and computer was completely new, different. So timing was a big deal, but I mean, I quit my job and off I went, and I have a really good friend not far from me. His name's Tom Dock, and you ever hear of that product, that deadfall trainer for dogs?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
That's Doc.
He
right?
brought that. That was, talk about original.
Yeah. And he's an original. I mean, let alone his product. I mean, he's just an incredible dude. The gold standard for sure. So anyway, he makes this product. I meet him out in South Dakota pheasant hunting. I'm with my dog. He's with his dog. I recognize him from traveling shows and with Dawkins Oak Ridge Retrievers, and he's just an incredible dog trainer. But anyway, we started to talk about this, and I came home, and he called me and he said, "Hey, will you meet me? I want you to see this." So I meet him, and he tells me about this product, and he asked me if I could help him market it. And I'm like, sure, because it's what I do in corporate America. So I took the product, and I had a yellow male at that time named Sackett, and he was kind of a rock star for a dog, a powerhouse. And so I started to photograph this stuff, and Tom Docken and I went to the SHOT Show that year. And at the SHOT Show, Doc wasn't even sure if anybody'd even like or accept his new product. And it blew up like nothing else blew up. It just went completely wild at that show. And he's like, "Oh, this is going to work." So the head buyer from Cabela's walks in the booth, and he's looking at this booth, and he asked Doc, he goes, who made this booth right here? And Doc pointed at me, and he goes, "That dude right there." So the guy from Cabela's asked me to submit images for a lab calendar. So I came home, and Doc helped me get a 300 millimeter 2.8 lens. He gave me I think it was like 58 $100 bills in a white envelope, and told me to go buy that lens and get busy.
Wow.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Big time. Life changing. So
We're getting, oh, go ahead.
I wind up with this calendar, right? So then the calendar turned into an art buyer at Saatchi & Saatchi in New York, saw the dog photography, hired me to shoot Eukanuba. So now I'm in Saatchi & Saatchi. They loved the photography. Then another art buyer inside there, who had the Old Spice account, hired me to shoot Tony Stewart, the NASCAR champion at that time. So I'm telling you, one thing after another, and that's like you said, no plan at all. I don't want a plan. I don't think I'd be any good with a plan.
That's what Jake does do all the time. We're getting a couple questions for you, Lee. Evan Macvec wants to know, what is your favorite story behind a particular photograph you took? And it doesn't necessarily have to be the quality of the photo, but he wants to know your favorite story behind a photo.
Well, if you follow my Instagram, it's the one of that yellow dog flying through the air. That one.
What is your Instagram handle so people can go check that out?
At Kjos Outdoors. At KJOS Outdoors. Is that it? At Kjos Outdoors?
KJ.
I think it's at Kjos _outdoors, isn't it?
I thought it was KJ Kjos Outdoors.
If you type in Kjos KJOS, it'll come up.
Yeah, it will. Plug in Kjos, it'll come up. But that yellow dog flying through the air, for sure.
That was your dog?
No, yeah, he's mine. If they read the story, or if you read the story, that's the dog I almost killed.
Right.
And it was close, dude. I mean, I can't believe that dog lived. It was bad. Really bad.
I remember reading that story and got choked up about it.
No, I shouldn't.
I mean,
no, it'll get to me eventually if I keep talking. Yeah. So there's another one, Phil. That image of Phil.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Duck Dynasty. Well, he was Duck Commander Phil, but that one.
I bet you guys get along really well, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see the synergy there immediately.
He nicknamed me Nordic. That's what he
Nordic?
Nordic.
Because you're in Minnesota?
Yeah, and I had hair like he had hair, and yeah, we got along really good. But that image right there, Phil had this idea. And Phil wanted to be photographed, so there was really very few of us around. And we went out into the flooded timber by his home there. And originally it started out in like this this piece of timber, looked like oak brush growing up like that. And he was in it, and it was like he was preaching to the choir, and he was like looking right at the congregation like that. Well, the trees were too close to him, and it was conflicting, and it didn't really look that good. And I wanted to isolate Phil from the rest of it. So in the picture right there, I put a long lens on, and then I isolated him from the back of those trees and then shot him. But when you look at him right there, I mean, you think he's a radical son of a bitch, right? Well, He's really not. He's not. But so here's what makes the story interesting.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry.
Here's what makes the story interesting. During their rise at Duck Dynasty, you know, in Phil's controversial, he'll speak his mind, right? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he made a comment, and you know, it was one of his typical comments, and I'm not sure that's not the big PR machine working though. But anyway, it gets all these feathers ruffled. If I would have published that image at that time, that would have went viral and been insane in like 24 hours. I'll bet it would have been on Fox News, MSNBC. They would have had their one says one agenda here, one agenda there, right? Oh, it would have been.
Absolutely.
Oh, it would have been a shit show. It would have been fun though. But
I mean, that's like a war. That's like that image is so powerful because of what he's got strapped around his neck and him holding the Holy Bible. I mean, that speaks Phil Robertson like nothing else. I mean, that is him. That's an amazingly powerful image.
Yeah, that's it. And he tells me to this day that he said that's my favorite image ever.
Wow.
So that was it.
That's a reward in itself, eh?
Yeah.
Just having someone like that tell you that you've captured something that is his favorite is got to be an cool. Extremely rewarding process.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
So it's
Go ahead.
It's great when you're working with somebody and they obviously like your results. Joe, I don't know how to say his last name, wants to know if you ever get into a conflict with the people you're working with, do you usually have like art directors or anybody like that on the shoot with you? And how do you deal with them if you're not seeing eye to eye? I kind of get bossy with people and just be like, hey, let me do my thing and I think you'll be happy, but that doesn't always work.
I win. I usually win. They, quite honestly, yes, art directors or creatives go with. And then when they see what big locations like, then typically they don't want to go anymore. Really, they don't. But also, and I mean, unless they think it's fun, right? But then once they know that I have my head wrapped around their brand, that I get what we're after, they let me go, you know. But I'm a little more than a photographer too. I mean, I have creative sense in my head, you know, brand and art direction and creative direction. So once
you come up with things that they didn't even know were going to come up, and it may even change the way they were looking at their vision because you come up with something better. I mean, for a lack of better words.
I think once you prove yourself to whoever you're working with, it kind of goes smoothly from there. And in most cases, hopefully, you've already proven yourself when they hire you. But just to give people, back to Joe, just to give your clients some confidence that you know what the hell is going on and you have a little experience in the situation goes a long way.
Well, I think, well, you mentioned a little while ago, you used the word humble with me. I don't think I'm humble. I wouldn't say that at all. When I'm on location, I'm cocksure about what I'm going to do, right? If I got to think how I'm going to say this because I could get in trouble with clients. They want to know that they like the confidence because they want to know that I have this. They have a lot invested in work, right? Big location work. I mean, there's a lot of money and a lot of like
investment.
There's a lot that's on the line, right? So they want to know that, and I want them to know that I got their back whether they're there or not, right? I do my best every day. That I swear to God, when I'm dying and I'm laying on my deathbed, I'm going to look back and there's no meat that's going to be left on the bone. None, right? I give it 100% every day. Still do. Love it. Hate myself if I don't. Right? Now, do I always get good work? No, I don't. Right? And I tell the clients, well, how do you think today was? I don't like it. It ain't very good yet. Right? But when I'm on it, then they'll know I'm on it too. And usually at the end of the shoot, they're usually they're a good body of work. You know, something we can all be proud of for sure. So
it's good to be honest with yourself, especially when you're on a deadline or you're pressured for time. You got to be honest with yourself and who you're working with, so you guys can switch things around and move and be successful at the end, rather than just kind of float through it and then you've lost that client and burn that bridge at the end of the job.
Hey, like you're on a location shoot for 3 days and you've got bright sunny skies for 3 days, right? It's brutal.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
you can't change that. You have to adapt. You can't change that.
Not as a location shooter. When I'm in the studio and you're shooting product or shooting fashion and you're in the studio, none of that is being a location shooter. So there's some stressful shit sometimes, right?
No doubt.
I was just dealing with this last weekend. I had I'm shooting an August cover for Peterson's bow hunting, and we showed up at this great location, this great farm, and the background that we needed was covered in harsh sun. So we had to wait about an hour, and we just used that time to set up the poses and make sure we had the right depth of field and everything that we were doing. And by the end of the night, had we not stuck it out, we wouldn't have come to the same result that we had the lower, the softer light with. And he just had to say that right off the bat, like, hey, I just don't think this is working out. We've got too many shadows. It's too harsh. So let's just wait. And luckily, we all came to the same conclusion and it worked out.
So when you have clients and you have a 10-hour stretch in the middle of the day that's like there, it's painful, right? Because they suffer because they think you're not working.
Yeah, they want you to be doing something.
And you're like, do what?
Yeah, give you shit.
What do you do? Shit? Want another 5,000 fucking images to look at on my drive? They hate me when they get the drive. Hey, they're like, what are you supposed to do with all this shit?
Right, that's right.
Like you bracketed like 5 or 7 times per shot. I'm like, yeah, well, if I'm retouching them, I got to have the information. So, I get yelled at.
That's great. Angie Erickson, a mutual friend of ours, is asking, is there an art director that you really think is great in the industry? Is there someone that stands out to you as an art director?
Yeah. Tom Martineau. He's probably the best. Art director I work with at Kimber right now, her name's Rachel Maloney. She's really a really good art director. And what I mean by that is she's like really clear on what she wants. And even though it might not be how I would shoot it or set it up, the work in the end is always really good, right? And her ideas are really good. So she's really
That's
good.
got to be fun.
Oh, and she's awesome. Yeah, that's just a fun company to work for.
When you're working with someone that is good at what they do, and you guys, two people can, or three or four or five people can collaborate on something, and it's done well. It's always it's funner that way, in my opinion, because you have good people to work with.
Oh yeah, it's fun. You know what else is odd? Circling back a little bit to how we were talking about how you see things differently or how things change during the day, right? When we go on a big location, clients want to go out the day before and scout, right? And I go with, and sometimes there's value to it. I'm not going to say there isn't sometimes, but most of the time there isn't, because when I go back the next day, nothing looks the same.
Exactly.
Doesn't look the same to me. Might to them, doesn't to me. So I'd rather move, look around and go, oh, I look for beauty, and then I look at that beauty and I try to figure out what I can put in that beauty. What would be right here, right? What would he look like? What would she look like? What would they be doing? And I'm like, let's go shoot right there, right? Because of what it looks like.
Yeah.
Go back 6 hours later, it's gone. So,
very true.
Yeah,
very true. And sometimes your light, the right light only lasts for so many minutes. And man, if you don't get it right, well, then what do you do? What do you do?
Have you ever lost it? Have you ever been on a shot and lost it?
Oh
God, do I start swearing? I
Somebody
throw
asked
shit,
what.
I kick shit. Oh, I've made people cry. I've made models cry. Oh,
throwing golf clubs.
Huh?
Somebody just recently asked, what shot haunts you the most that you may have lost? Have you ever lost a shot or just didn't accomplish your goal and it just haunts you? You think about it.
Yeah. One, I was in Saskatchewan. Are you talking about like lose a whole card?
Well, either that or just couldn't accomplish your photograph.
That's only happened one time though, a card. I lost a whole card. I don't know. I don't know what happened.
Getting heart palpitations.
Oh, fucking it was on an Under Armour shoot too. It was like, oh my God, they're gonna fire me. And it was bad. It was bad. Yeah. No, I was in Saskatchewan one time and I was watching greenheads pile into a creek bottom for days, right? And they're feeding in a pea field not far from there. And I went in there to look at them to see where they were, and I didn't have my camera with me. And what I saw, I don't know if I'm ever going to see it again, but it was like it to this day. It's the worst thing that I never captured. To tell you how many greenheads were in that creek bottom and how they came out was just. Now I've been hunting ducks my whole life, right? It was outrageous what it was like.
Just an explosion of
and it didn't stop. I mean, it just kept going. It was like one wave after another, and then all this water was in the air. Not just from the initial explosion, but from the ones above them, right? So it's this, and it's backlit.
Like it was raining.
Oh, and it's backlit, of course, right?
Wow. A rainbow. You could almost see a rainbow in that water.
Yeah, it was crazy cool. But that one bummed me out. But I don't know. Sometimes it's fun just to not have a camera too and just look. But not that time. That was bad. I think
we should, since we've sort of reformatted this show, particularly because we wanted to talk to you so much, maybe we should ask you. We always have a little segment called the tip of the day, and maybe we should ask you. If there's something out there that you can offer from a tip of the day perspective to, the general audience, and we're talking to shooters, aspiring photographers, aspiring cinematographers. What would one solid tip be that you could come up with that would help everyone? Like
ideology or equipment?
Anything. And I think it's all important. So
I don't think the equipment matters. I mean, it's like it's a hammer and a nail, right?
Exactly.
What you do with the hammer and nail is what matters, right? I don't think equipment is like, my equipment's no different than anybody else's. I don't think the debate between Nikon and Sony's mirrorless now and Canon, I mean, I don't think any of it matters, right? Nobody looks at an image and goes, well, that was shot with a Canon. Right? I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with anything. So I guess if I had one tip, especially for a younger shooter, it would be just do your own thing. Just really work on your own look, your own thing, your own vibe. Have you ever heard somebody say, "Oh, I can tell you shot that," or I can tell you that. That's rhetorical on my part. Somebody go, "Well, I can tell Kjos shot that," and I'm like, "How do you know that?" Well, I can just tell, right? I mean, is it because, I don't know, what is it because of? You know?
It's your style. It's your authenticity. It's just the look that you've created, which is something that I wanted to ask you about. I'm guessing there's a lot of spontaneity in there, and there's a lot of things that just came together for you, and it's just the way you see the world. But how did you, whether you see it or not, there is a certain style that Lee Kjos, is described by in the photography world. How did you come into that style? What did you see that
I think that
made you go, "This is badass"? Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I don't hear what you hear, right? So I don't know.
I'm telling you. Huh? I'm telling you, that's what's out there. That's what you don't hear.
I don't hear what other people really think about my work very often, right? I've had, in business, new customers, potential new customers or whatever, I've had them go, "Well, I don't really know if I want you to shoot because I don't want it to look like somebody else's work, and I can tell what your work is." Well, part of that, companies, there's very, very, very few good creatives. This is where I'm going to get in trouble right now. There's very few good creatives that hold jobs in corporate America, right? They've been promoted, they work within or whatever, right? Okay. If you have a brand and you can't direct me on what your visual language should look like, right? Whose fault is that? Is that ours as photographers? I mean, you're right. I mean, when I shoot, you know what you're going to get, right? That's another thing. Clients will ask me, well, if they look at that portfolio book back there and they're like, will my work look like that? I'm like, well, yeah, that's club dues, right? That's not even the right question you should be asking. I mean, is it going to be nice? Well, yeah, I hope so. Christ, they've been doing it forever. It should be good, right? Does it work? Does it do its job? Does it move the needle? Does it help your brand strategy that you have? But now think about, okay, many years ago, an ad campaign was scripted out. It was in an agency, it was drawn out, and you went and you shot to those holes that made up their campaign and their strategy, right? Now, you have people go, just go out and shoot. And then come back and we'll see what kind of shit we can make out of this. That's fucked up.
That always works out great.
That's not good. That's not good.
Just do your thing. And you come back and you're like, here you go. And they're like, well, that's not exactly what I was hoping for. Maybe you could, they did Office Space. Maybe you could just, okay. No. Tell me what you want.
You should have done this yourself.
That's painful. That's not, well, it's not how the process should go. Right?
Right.
That's why I said early on, if I know what they need for holes, right, what we're going to shoot, then I'll go get it, right? But now, how about the social thing now, right? I mean, look what that's added to shoots, right? I mean, now instead of 6 big brand images that you made almost everything with, the ad campaign, trade show, whatever you made. Now they want, which is cool, it's really cool, but now we need 75 social images a shoot. Well, where does that come from? How do you maintain a super high level of quality when you're asked to do 75 images?
Gets watered down. It's stretched out too far.
Yeah, I don't think that's cool, right? So hopefully people that are watching this, maybe they'll reply or something, say, hey, this is why we have to do it this way. But if you have a okay, so you mentioned it earlier. I started Instagram, during the Olympics. I posted a picture of Lindsey Vonn. It's the first thing I ever post in my life, right? And I thought, well, as long as I'm going to do it, I might as well do it. So, but I want to maintain some level of standard. If I can't post an image that has a story, I don't want to do it. I don't want to just post to post. That I don't get that. I think that creates apathy, and then people just do this. I would hate that. People viewed our work like that, like apathy, right? Just going through it. I want people to stop. I want them to engage. I want them to comment. I've been trying to reply to everybody when they comment. I just, at least thank you for following, right?
Sure.
I really like the engagement from people. I think it's really cool. And they love story. I think they love story as much or more than the image.
There's a guy named Seth Dortch who asks a question that's a really good question. And it relates to what you're talking about. He says, I have a few discussions that I'd like to get your input on. How has the evolvement of cameras, post-edit abilities, gear, etc., shaped an outdoor photographer for the better, but also how has it negatively affected the photography world? With the overwhelming facts of millennials being so consumed with media, how do we, he's 23 years old, guard ourselves from the instant results or instant gratification mentality and stay focused on everything?
I don't think you do, because I think that toothpaste is out of the tube on that. I mean, it is instant, right? It is instant. I mean, even you guys are shooting commercially too. I mean, it. They want it now.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yesterday,
they want it now. Not just the social stuff now. They want the brand work now, right?
Well, just like you said, you can't just go shoot a few images for the brand campaign. Now you have to do 30 days worth of posts, but they, without getting myself in trouble too, they don't want to pay you for 30 days of locations and stories.
Yeah, it's a whole new. It's like a side pouch
for that. Well, there you asked one thing, right? How has that created a problem? It's created a.
Here's time and money. Here's time. Here's money.
one thing that always works in business, supply and demand, right? It's simple economics. 20 years ago, there was 5 of me, right? Mm-hmm. How many are there now?
5 million.
Okay.
Wannabes.
Well, there's a lot of us, right? Different degrees, but there's a lot of us, right? There's still only a handful that are top, way good at it. Right? Now, if you have a bunch of companies though that just think we need content and don't really think about what that content or what their story is, just this. So
plus you're putting your brand, your personal brand on that stuff, and when they put that stuff out, it affects you as well, not just their brand. It affects you because that's your work, and if it's not top notch, then it's out there exposed.
I think companies, brands will realize more and more and more that it's not just about feeding the machine whatever or taking content from wherever they get it, but a real strategy on how you're going to fill that hole in social. I think the quality of that work is going to rise and get better all the time, because again,
I agree.
It creates apathy. Look at some people's on their feed. If I'm going to do something, I want to learn and I want to be really good at it, right? So I want to really understand Instagram, the social culture, and I want to get good at it. I don't want to do Facebook, but I'll do Instagram. But if you have to, man, how do I? You have to get people to understand that it's not just posting for posting's sake. And I hear that all the time. Somebody say, well, how often should I post? Well, you got to post every day. Why? Why do you got to post every day? What if you only post when you have something good and a good message or a good story that fits your brand, that fits who you are? Now, maybe it is 365. I don't know. But right. I think story. You can see on some people's feed, they'll have 20,000 likes and 2 comments. If I have 20,000 likes ever on an image, if I don't have 1,000 comments, I'm going to quit. Because
there's no engagement.
There's no engagement. It's not resonating with them. It's not working. If it's not working, what's the point? Right? I want to create brands. I love it. And I don't mean brand like, I think the word brand gets thrown around pretty loosely. I don't think there's many good brands out there. I think there's a bunch of products out there, but very few brands. You know, obviously companies like Yeti and Sims, I think, do a great job with it, and Sitka's doing a cool job with but there's not that much of that. Do you think? Or would I get you guys in trouble if I asked you that? I don't think.
I would say more companies go for the quick likes. They just want to fill up their feeds and get as many. The higher the number, the better they feel about their success. But like you said, if people aren't engaging and the message isn't sinking in, then you've got a lot of the scroll effect.
Vanilla ice cream at that point. Yeah. So I think things have changed so quickly too with social media from one trend to another. Things get really trendy, and then it gets oversaturated and overused, and then you move on to other things. And companies, brands, particularly, up and coming brands that don't have a high budget for marketing or whatever it is, they think that you just start posting a bunch of cool pictures on social media, they're going to blow up. And it's just not that. It's not that at all. And it's really more about interesting content, quality content, and how you present yourself as a brand that gets that going. Is that not true?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Totally. You could just look at my feed, right? I mean, it's minimal, tiny, right? But I guess it's growing. Right?
It is.
I think it's growing I really think it's growing because of story.
No doubt. And there's no question that's 100% true.
So now think about this. So back before social, the ad agencies during the 70s and 80s ruled the world. They did. You couldn't make a change to an ad without going through an agency, right? Mm-hmm. They controlled it. Right? They were very good at ad campaigns. Now you have companies that are manufacturers or companies are thrilled to death that they don't have to spend money with the evil agency and have these big ad campaigns. Now we have free Instagram or free Facebook. So they post all this garbage and shit because it's free. When are they going to start treating Instagram or Facebook like they'd treat an ad campaign? Back in the day,
as it gets better,
as we help them get better with it.
That's right. That's right.
So think about back when they were doing an ad campaign through an agency. Would they ever have taken a photograph from a consumer and say, "Oh, cool, we're going to make an ad out of this"? Right? It's crazy. But
totally.
I think these companies, a lot of them are going to see this isn't working. This doesn't do anything. Well, you're
It's
right.
already happening. It's already happening.
Right. Well, you're not treating it like you should be treating your brand or your brand strategy, your visual language. You're not doing it anymore. So,
And I still think too, Lee, that what you're talking about there creates more separation between the good and the great, because as these other brands hire low budget, promotional values to try to get somewhere, the people that hire top quality promotional values are making leaps and bounds above these other companies, and they're running away from them because of the quality. And it's not frequency, it's quality.
that's what I think. Right. So,
Mhm,
and I think that trend is going to go up. I don't think the quality of work is going to go down. I think because they're going to realize that, hey, we got to start treating this like it's a real campaign.
Yeah, it's natural.
I agree.
Everything's, I mean, you have the explosion of social networking, the explosion of free content, and that will plateau. Just like everything else, everything will become new and trendy. It will plateau, and then those who are succeeding will come up. And I'll keep talking with my hands, but yeah. So I mean, those who are authentic and are true to their talents and their professionalism will maintain their levels, and everything else will become normal. And companies who want to succeed will rise above normal. So,
I was looking at your shirt, public landowner.
oh yeah, someone else asked about this.
Well, no, I mean, I'm a member. I probably should have worn mine too today, but I think it's a great organization. I mean, if I gave a shout, I will too, like post, I'll give a major shout out to BHA. They're awesome. I think it's a great cause. I love it. And again, like we were talking about circling back, how different things are. Nobody talks about conservation anymore. I mean, when I was a kid, everybody was involved in Ducks Unlimited, and now all I hear is, like, in regards to Ducks Unlimited is, oh, they're political, or they're this, or they're that. It's always a problem. And I'm like, really, dude? $35? For $35, if I could see one duckling hatch, I'd give you $35, right?
No doubt.
100%.
You could find problems with any organization, but people really gotta get off the me. Look at me.
That's
Conservation. They have to.
Hey,
for those who don't know, this is Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. They're one of the top conservation groups in the country, and they help the fight of public lands. And this is one of their T-shirts, and you can get it free with a membership on some days.
Yeah, I just think almost everybody that hunts and fish, there really isn't a very reason to not belong to that organization and a bunch of others. I mean, if you're a duck hunter, get involved, right? Yeah. If you love trout, get involved.
And of course it's political. They're trying to maintain the legislations that protect your rights as a sportsman. Of course it's political.
Exactly. And you have to look at it like that. Jess and I, we've talked for a couple years now that I truly believe this, Lee, that the next trend, and I'm starting to see it trickle in, the next trend in social media in terms of, the story and the power of social media is going to be conservation. And if it's not, it needs to be conservation, because it's probably the most, it's so important to what we're doing. And if you don't get involved, man, then it's just going to dissolve into the ether, man.
We need to get involved. Have you been to the Rendezvous?
I haven't, because I had to work my regular job, and I'm going to miss their big event at the Total Archery Challenge in Pennsylvania this weekend. However, I have started taking off for those weekends, so hopefully I can next year.
I think really cool. I think it's really cool that Filson got involved and started to sponsor some of the stuff, because there were a few years. I mean, Filson being such an iconic brand, I think it's really cool that they got involved again and they're back in the hunt fish space. Yep. That's good. We need people involved.
There's a lot of great brands getting involved, and a lot of big name companies, and half these companies do things that people don't even see behind the scenes. I mean, they know that the people who are buying their products are sportsmen and outdoor passionate people. So if they don't have somewhere to use their product, like, what's the point of selling it? Everyone needs to maintain a little bit and just take a little responsibility for the lifestyles that we live.
I think right now, conservation first. If that doesn't, That should be the drum we're all beating right now. Without that,
100%.
It's going to.
We have nothing. If we don't have that, we have nothing.
So
yeah,
I
agree.
I'm all for it. What do you guys like to do? Let me ask you guys questions. I've never. What do you do? What's this? Tell me about what's this? What is Outdoor Cameraman?
Jake and I mean, we've gone over it a few times. We met a few years ago. We have similar lifestyles and families and just outlooks on life, and we started working together. We do some photo video work, and aside from that, I have a separate job as a wedding photographer, and I do my outdoors photography as well. And Jake is the all-around traveling, wearer of many hats man. So he does all sorts of, I mean,
I'm mostly involved in cinema. And as you know, Jess and I, we actually work together with the National Wildlife Federation. They have different branches that branch off of their main brand, like the Vanishing Paradise, Texas Living Waters program. And those are things that we're very involved with in terms of producing content for them to help get their message and word out. And you know, like she said, we met 4 years ago.
About that.
Found like-minded synergy, and we just started running with it, man. And
it's hard to find people you can trust and are honest and are authentic and just do things real without like the veil of this craziness that's just drama and
bullshit
and bro deals. And,
oh boy!
God, if one more bro deal I gotta see goes down happens, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Define a bro deal.
It's like, hey, I know you work at this company. We're great friends, so now you're going to do all my work for me.
And I'm going to give you free shit.
Yeah. You pump my ego, I'll pump your ego, and we'll pump each other's ego all day long.
I'm the Antichrist to them.
There you go. We the whole concept of this show, the Outdoor Cameraman Experience, was really to talk to people like you and Shannon and some other people, producers in the industry, to really, cast this net out there and to explain to people or really describe experiences that we've all had in the industry, because there's so many questions out there. People are scared to ask questions. They don't know what questions to ask. There's lots of aspiring photographers and cinematographers out there. So we just utilize this platform, as a visual platform. We want to do the video work so that people could see who we are. They could see your character, not just read it in some blog. Now people feel like they know you better, because honestly, I thought you were much more introverted than you seem on video, and now I feel like I know you better. I feel like I can come up and give you a high five now.
Is that because I was never like in the social game? Is that why?
No, I think it's because the first time I met you, it was, there was a crowd of people and you were rather quiet. What's that? No, not at all. Not at all. You're very quiet, but I also look at quiet as simplicity. And I've always looked at you and your work as, while it's very profound and complex, maybe from a digital perspective, it's very simple and it's very sophisticated and it's very intriguing, Lee. You're a very intriguing galvanizing. I looked up the term polarizing because at first I wanted to describe you as a polarizing person, but that's not it. And I looked up galvanizing. That was more along the lines of who you are. So yeah, you're very like intriguing.
A great juxtaposition. He's like a walking juxtaposition. You look really rough around the edges. You seem like pretty kind of crazy. But you've got your freaking job on lockdown. You know exactly who you are. You know exactly what you're going to produce. And I mean,
and whether you like it or not, when you walk into a room, Lee, you're like King Neptune. You walk in and people admire and respect, what you've done for the outdoor space, what you've done for brands, all those things. So, thank you for everything that you've done. You've paved the way for a lot of us, man. Thank you.
Oh boy. I don't know that, but if I did, thank you.
Now you know. We're actually running over time, but I wanted to ask 2 more questions, if you guys don't mind. One is there one thing, Lee, that you could describe about yourself that not no one knows about? What's that?
I'm a hopeless romantic.
And in what way?
I want things to be like when it comes hunt fish, right? I mean, I love beauty. Like there's an image of two dudes and a pheasant flushing, or a couple pheasants in a lab twisting, and right. That's like, I know it sounds weird as shit, but that's the romantic in me. I mean, that is like,
look at this one. I mean, you got two gnarly grizzly bears going at it. It's beautiful. Bears, yeah. It's beautiful.
That was really cool. My wife and I, we were up on this called a bear boat trip in the Shelikof and off of the Katmai. And we were up there with our good friends Tom and Ann Martineau, and we'd go out and photograph bears. And these two, you could hear them for, I mean, it seemed like you could hear them for a couple miles, how loud, right? We just kept walking towards them and got up there, and they look like they're pissed off and they're fighting, but they're not. What they are is like teenage brothers wrestling and sparring. But yeah, really cool though, like wild and
yeah. It's such a quiet and soft image. You've got like this seagull kind of just like looking on, like you'd think he'd be spooked out. You've got like these neat little layers, and it's a really cool image. That one stuck out to me when I looked through your folder of ones to upload, and I just thought, like, how cool is that? You've got these contrasting bears. They're just freaking gnarly, but the whole image is just soft. It's like a freaking fairy tale of grizzly bears right there. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's I don't know.
So we usually end our program with a product snapshot. Since we're staying with you on this whole episode, is there one piece of equipment like specifically that you utilize that helps your game? And obviously, I mean, I don't know how you feel about giving away information or whatever it is. Is there one piece of equipment?
I've asked lots of people. I've showed lots of people.
Sure.
I don't have any problem with that. No, computer.
What's your computer?
Yeah. You know what's funny is, like, you retouch, and I've actually heard some people that don't like it or whatever, and they're like, well, that's retouched. He retouched that. Well, yeah, I retouch everything. I mean, but back in agency days, that works retouch too. I mean, there was airbrush artists that were incredibly talented people. There was pieces of film that were cut out, pieces of film that were stripped in, then they were airbrushed. I mean, this has been going on forever. This is nothing new. This is just a different hammer in the tool bag, That's all it is, right? So, okay, let me ask you this. If you take a picture, you see it, like the way you see it, and you're like, oh my God, is that pretty? And your camera can't meter from the shadow to the highlight, and the sky's all gone, right? It's gone, right? You look at the picture and the sky went white when you got your image back, right? Okay, so let's say you're going to replace the sky. Which one is more real of what happened? The one you retouched or the one that came out raw?
Great argument.
100%.
Right? Okay,
great argument.
Right? So when people go,
I'm putting that one in the bank. I'm going to use that.
Think about it. I mean, think about it. People go, you're out hunting, right?
They consider you less authentic because you're editing and enhancing the image. But if that's how you see it. You're the artist creating the image.
What did you see? What was the story? What happened when you were out there? Did that really happen like that? All in one shot? No, maybe not. Did that happen? Absolutely. And that's what I remember. Right?
Plus the sophistication behind digital art itself, man, that's not something you just go in and just figure out, man. There's a lot of work and time and experience involved.
Now, where I draw the line is editorial. I draw the line in editorial, right? Editorial should be left like editorial work and shot that. That's just how I think. I'm not telling anybody what to do, right?
Sure.
But in advertising or covers yeah, you got to do your job, man. Right?
No doubt.
Thing, right?
Are you an Apple? You're an Apple guy?
Yeah. for sure.
Very good.
Yeah. I shoot
Well,
I shoot Nikon equipment, not that it matters. You know, it doesn't. It's just
right.
I shot Nikon film cameras, so I just they feel good. Right?
Sure.
That's it.
Well, as much as we hate to do this, we're going to have to cut the show off. Thank you so much, Lee.
Oh,
It was
thank you.
very
It was great.
interesting. It was a great show, and as we knew it would be. And thanks again.
Will you come back? You'll come back?
I'll be back.
Perfect.
Very good.
All right.
Thanks,
All
Lee.
right, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks for
Ciao.
tuning in. Later.
So, awesome show.
Wow.
I
We could
mean,
talk to him forever, man.
Yeah, I feel like I have like freaking coffee mug quotes out of that whole show, just like answers to life.
Oh, inspiring. I'm like, I got to get off here and go do something.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, he's been an iconic figure in the outdoor space for many years, and like he said, and we talked about, his photos are very identifiable in a good way. And everyone's chasing Lee, and I know he probably doesn't want to hear that, but everyone wants to be him, not necessarily him, but everyone wants to have the success that he's acquired over the years, and obviously he works hard at it.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
And I mean, the message has resonated in every episode that we've done. So many people ask all the time, what can I do to be successful? It's work hard, take the time to become experienced, be authentic.
Exactly. You just heard it from the horse's mouth. Work hard and do your thing and be yourself. There's no magic, dust that's going to turn you into some badass photographer. It's just the way it is.
I'd have lots of that dust.
I'd be pouring that on my head right now.
Awesome.
Well, Jess, it's been a pleasure again. Can't wait till next week.
We'll be out with some promos for info on the next episode. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This has been the most successful episode that we've seen so far right off the bat. So we got lots of questions and comments, and we'll talk to Lee and try to get anybody who wasn't referred to during the show. We'll try to get him to come on and chat with everybody about questions and comments they have with them. So we'll look forward to having him back again sometime, and we will see you guys next time.
The Outdoor Cameraman Experience. See ya. Bye, Jess.
Bye, Jake.